Years.
Mark, I'm not sure when last we spoke to each other. It could be.
I saw you when I visited in 2008.
Oh my word. More,
Because
more.
I left in December of 2005, and then I came back to visit in 2008.
Unbelievable. More than 10 years.
More than
You
10.
still look exactly the same, though.
Just less hair.
Well, me too. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Mark, you're out in the States at the moment, right? Where in the States are you?
Virginia, right on the East Coast, about 2.5 hours south of Washington, D.C.
I see.
Right on the coast of Virginia.
Well,
near the big seaport of Norfolk and that area.
Thanks for taking the time to join me on my channel. It just 10 minutes with Gallo. It's really a play on words. So we're not going to be 10 minutes. We could be 10 minutes, 15, 20,
okay.
Maybe an hour if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check in with you with regards to what's happening in the States at the moment. South Africa, just to give you a general idea as to what's happening here, is we have over 50,000 cases at the moment, with just over 1,000 deaths with regards to COVID-19. And I believe you need to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's about 7 million cases in the States with about 400,000 deaths. Is that right?
No, not 400,000 deaths. In fact, that's interesting. I was just actually looking. I'll pull it back up. I was just looking at the.
It's 100,000. Sorry.
100,000. Because if I can, and there's this wonderful lady's, trying to give us, here's the map that gives us the thing by state. And the latest map, the total cases in New York, just in New York. No, let me see. In the United States, we have 1.9 million cases, and
Wow.
we have 110,000 deaths. But just to give you an idea, in my state of Virginia, the cases right now are mostly the same. We have 51,251 cases in just my state.
Wow.
But now there are other states, way out west, like in Wyoming, they've got 960 cases. But New York has 383,500 cases.
That's just absolutely absurd.
I know. So in Florida, the cases are increasing in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 22 states have increasing cases in the last 14 days. Wow. And that's largely, I think, Gallo, because on Memorial Day, which is a big holiday here, which is the last weekend in May, mm-hmm. people had been on lockdown pretty much for almost 2 months. And some states were starting to get to where they felt they could move to phase 1 of reopening. And people were going to the beaches and parks, and they just in more Republican right-wing states, they were like, you can't tell us what to do, so we're going out. And so now the cases are all rising again. Wow. And because of the unrest we've had in the last 2 weeks with the death of George Floyd and all of the protests and riots, you have thousands of people out protesting peacefully, but they're all out. And so in another 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to see probably another spike. So it's crazy. It
is absolutely crazy. I mean, I want to talk about this racism issue maybe at another time, but we can touch on it while we're chatting about it. I mean, how has it been in the States with all this violence that's happening? I mean, we read about it almost every single day.
Well, it's everywhere. I honestly, I do not watch regular TV news. I don't. I listen to a national news program every morning on radio. I read the highlights of the New York Times every morning. It has been, well, I mean, I like to think, Gallo, that I have a different perspective of racism and of living in a society, a mixed or a more open society, because I spent 2 years in South Africa. And I moved to a country that had lived through horrible years, decades of apartheid. And I was there for the 10th anniversary celebration of the ending of it. And I was fortunate to become friends with and come to care for and love a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds that I never had before in my life. Because I grew up in the South. I grew up in the South of America. I grew up in North Carolina. So, and I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying that I did gain a new appreciation for the Black existence and for the colored existence and for how people in a society live together. And I mean, everybody knows when I was there, violence and crime in South Africa was terrible. I mean, it was terrible when I was there, and it's still terrible, I guess. I mean, I was there during that time when I was going to drive into Cape Town one time to see my friend, Stephen Biekus?
Yeah, Stephen Biekus, yeah.
And Piet, they're dear friends, and I was going to go see them, and so I drove in, and I was getting ready to go back, and they said, "No, you're not going back." I said, "Of course I am." They said, "No, you're not driving after dark." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because of all the," and that was I don't know if you remember it, but during that time in 2005 or 4, those groups of people were dropping blocks and bricks off the bridges in Cape Town, and they were dropping them onto cars. And then as soon as the car stopped, somebody would come and they would be robbed and left. And so, well, even 80 and they none of them wanted me to drive by myself back at night. And there were certain things I learned I could not do. But still, I think I came back as a changed person because I had experienced a culture that was completely different from mine. And it happened to be a culture that was built largely on Black and colored people. And that was, and I was not raised to be a racist, but I was raised among racists.
Sure.
I mean, they were all around. I mean, people use the N word, just like people in South Africa use the K word sometimes. But I grew up, I don't know if you saw my post that I put on Facebook. I guess it was on Sunday because, did you see it?
I didn't.
Okay. It was, you should read it. It's called Slow and Steady, but it's about, there's a picture of a turtle.
Okay.
Because I was running Sunday and as I ran, I was running down the side of the road, which is a highway on a wide spot, and this truck stopped, and it was in my way, and it was far away, but I thought, I hope I couldn't go into the traffic, and I thought I'm gonna have to go over, and I thought and then I saw this young Black man get out of the truck, and he ran across the street and through the median and into the other thing, and bent down and picked something up, and I thought, did he drop his wallet or whatever? And then he came back, and when I got to the truck, it was a turtle, like a little turtle.
Okay.
And you see, you got the right response. And the thing is, he had to have passed the turtle on the other side, gone down the road a quarter of a mile, turned around, come back, stopped, ran across, got it, to save this turtle. And it just struck me. And I wrote this piece about looking for turtles and or taking time to notice what's going on around you. Sure. And so I feel I have dear former students that are in my life, that have been in my life for 20 years, that are Black and that are like my children, and they've come to stay with me, and I've been in their homes, and their children call me grandpa or papa or Uncle Mark, and I love them. And I have, some of them are closer to me than many other students that I've had out of the hundreds. Sure. But I still am a white American male, and I still grew up in the South, and I still think that there are times when I have been in situations and I have felt less than comfortable because I was surrounded by Black people.
Okay. In which way do you think your life was?
In a strange place.
Which strange way do you think your life was?
I think it was more the. I didn't think my life was threatened, but I felt that I was out of place and that I might be perceived in a way other than I wanted to be perceived. And it was probably irrational. It was probably irrational, but I think that was just preconditioning. I think that was something I grew up with. Because when I was a little boy, I mean, I was born in 1958. So by the time I was 5, 6 years old and getting ready to go to school, it was like 1962-63. It was right in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement. So I remember places where it said, I remember a couple of stores where it said whites only, or seeing a drinking fountain that said whites. I remember that. It didn't last long. And I remember the first Black child that I ever went to school with. And I mentioned him in this thing I wrote because Anthony, when he came, none of us had ever been to school because there was a Black school and there was a white school when I started school. It was still that way. And the first little child his name was Anthony Copeland. He was in my grade. And I just recall early on when he got there, he would stand on the playground and nobody would, because you went out by class, nobody would play with him. Wow. And so I went over and said, do you want a seesaw? Because he was sitting on the seesaw, but one end was down. You know what a seesaw is?
Right. Yeah, of course.
And or teeter-totter, whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it, but I got on the seesaw with him. And then we got on the merry-go-round and I played with him because I didn't think, in my little mind, I thought, why is he all standing alone? And so I got bullied and taunted and sort of taken to task for that. And I've never but Anthony never forgot. For my whole life, every time, I never saw him many times, but every time I'd see him, he would literally cross wherever he was, stop what he was doing and see me. And until he died in the last couple of years of a heart issue, every time he saw my brothers, he would ask about me because I left an impression on him. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that I think in my little mind and as I grew, I don't think I was like a lot of little Southern white boys.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, the Southern, very, I'm sorry to say it, but I mean, there's quite a lot of racists there. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And but the climate I've seen now here on our little campus, we have, I teach at a boarding school. It's boarding. We have boarding students and day students. So we have about 210 kids from 15, 18 countries. We have, I would say we have, a lot. We have probably 30% is international of 210 kids. And we have, I would say, of those, which it can encompass like Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana. We also have been African Americans. And I would say that number, out of 210 kids, we might have 20.
Okay.
So like 10%. So, excuse me. So, and one of, I had a girl this year. I've had Black children in my advisory. We have advisories where I mentor a group for the whole time they're here. They're with me. I do their birthdays. They come to my home. I meet them every week. I have lunch with them twice a week. And so we have that. And we've had some little issues here, more from insensitivity than anything, because because we're rural Virginia, which is Southern, we also have some, what we call good old boys who are children that are products of probably right-wing Republican families, and they bring with them their own or their parents' mentality. And so we've had no blatant, horrible, uprisings or anything like that, more just insensitivity and not being, somebody with a Confederate flag belt buckle, or somebody making an off comment or somebody slipping. Not I don't think anybody's ever blatantly just used the N-word and called somebody that, but it's been, so we've had a little bit of something, but nothing horrible here.
Right.
Of course, we haven't been in session since February because we had to move to online school. But what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from a lot of my dear friends around the country is that, this dialogue needs to happen, and it's something that we have overlooked. And systemic racism is just part of the American fabric, whether we like it or not. This country was founded, and people had, within a few years, people had slaves, and it was there. And so, the black people here had to fight for everything. They had to fight to be human. They were counted as 1/5 human.
Yeah.
1/5 human. And then they, and then when they finally were freed, they never, it's just one thing after the other. And when you live with that and you have that as your heritage for so long, after a while, it just gets to a point where it reaches a tipping point, and it reached a tipping point in the 1960s. And that's when civil rights legislation came in. But even then, even since the 60s and civil rights legislation, it didn't change a lot of people. They just had to learn to deal with it a different way. And so now, but because of this and because of the whole police thing, we have far too long had policemen that use far too much. The statistics are there.
Yeah.
A black person is far more likely to be arrested or far more likely to be stopped and questioned.
Sure.
I've seen these seen some online stories of things where, a young man who's a runner, he's a runner, he's a champion runner, and he wants to run, and it's been in the pandemic, but his mother won't let him run because in their neighborhood, she goes, I can't have you running in this neighborhood.
No way.
And he goes, why? Oh yeah. And so what happened is, this was a news story that happened this past weekend. And because when he was 15, he was taking a run, and he had his headphones in, was running, and this car pulled up beside him and pulled right in front of him and stopped him. This lady says, "Did you just rob that store?"
No way.
And he said, "Ma'am, I'm just running." She goes, "Well, you were running away from that store." He goes, "I was been running for 3 miles." He said, I live here. And things like that happen all the time. Just random people.
It's such a stigma attached to lots of African Americans in the States.
It's horrible. And the police have been given so much. And police, there are great police officers. There are good, wonderful police officers everywhere. There are people who truly have the best interest of their communities at heart. And we've seen that across the country this week. We've seen where the police were called in and they put down their gear and they started walking with the people.
Wow.
And so that's happened over and over. Wow. And so there are some good people, but there are also lots of, they're power hungry, they're gun trigger happy. And in their mind, they think, well, if in doubt, shoot. No, I don't know. It's crazy.
Your president's not doing any favors at this stage.
That's another. He is ridiculous.
What's the take on that, Mark?
He is a power-hungry bureaucrat that made his money any way he could, and he is treating his job like a business, and it's not a business. Sure. It's a democracy. It's a country, and governing that way, and his poor his inability to empathize and to truly recognize who he is serving and what the job is.
Yep.
He's to be the servant of the people. He's to lead the people with justice and dignity, and there's nothing dignified about him. There's nothing dignified about him. He walked into a factory this past week where they were making the swabs to do the testing.
Yep.
Didn't wear a mask. So now they had to take out they had to destroy all the product that was there.
Well, when you watch him on the media, he never wears a mask anyways.
I know. He wants to have, and he now wants to have all his. He's trying to ramp up now because he's behind in the polls. He wants to ramp up his campaign again now, and he wants to have these big, open, live things, no masks. He's an idiot.
I was watching. I think it was yesterday. I think Giuliani was defending him, and he was standing with the Bible, and
that was all a show. And he had him clear the area where people were peacefully protesting with tear gas and rubber bullets. And he went there and he held up a Bible, which was not his. Somebody said, "Is that your Bible?" He goes, "It's a Bible."
Yeah, and they were questioning him about.
And he held it upside down and backwards because he has it. And so, but that was all a show. When he went to the statue of John Paul, the former Pope, that was a show. He's pandering to his constituency that is of the religious right, and I've got a lot of people that I know that are in the religious right, and I would never have guessed that some of these people would think that this man is a good president, but they got so. But see, Barack Obama was an anomaly in our history, and a wonderful and welcome one. But he discharged his office with dignity and with grace, and with he was a statesman. He could speak off the cuff or prepared. His speeches were beautifully done. They were well paced, well balanced. He did his best to be everyone's president, but he was black, and that was a problem for a lot of people. And that they couldn't believe how it happened. And so the stark contrast between the White House that was where the Obamas for 8 years and the White House is now there's no comparison. Right now, there is a fence and razor wire around the White House that they put up. Of course, now the fence is covered with signs.
Are you talking literally or figuratively?
Literally.
Wow.
Literally.
Wow.
They put a fence up. They put a new fence in front of the fence that was there, with razor wire coiled around the top.
Wow.
Oh, you can see it online. It's ridiculous. So, I would love for something to happen that would sway this man to realize that he has a responsibility and a duty to the people of this country to be respectful and to be honest and to be caring. And I don't think it's going to happen because he's a narcissist, and he is so focused on his own polyglot and his own worth and self-worth that I don't know that he ever had the concern of the country at heart. I think it was more about a conquest for him. So that's that.
That really put everything into perspective for me in terms of what I was thinking about what's happening in the States. I mean, of course, we don't live there, and you read things on the media and what you believe, So
right. Well, it has been. There's a lot of hurting people, but there's also a lot of energized, hopeful people because finally they think, okay, we've finally gotten something down. And the fact that now that we live in a media-driven age, it just happened that the same week or the same day almost, that George Floyd was murdered in front of people, and it was filmed, and everybody saw it quickly. There was no doubt. There was no way to deny what had happened.
Of course.
You got an officer with his hands in his pocket, with his knee on the neck of somebody who's begging for their life, and he dies on camera. So
right.
That was one thing. And then another thing, this ridiculous woman in Central Park who didn't have her dog on a leash, and she's asked by an African-American gentleman, saying, "Could you please put your dog on a leash?" And she goes, "You're threatening me, stop." And he goes, "I'm here at a distance. I'm just saying, please put your dog on a leash because I don't feel comfortable." She goes, "I'm going to call the police and tell them that an African-American man is threatening me and my dog."
You cannot be serious.
Oh, no. Look it up. It happened. And she called 911, but he was filming the entire thing.
Okay.
And his voice, her voice was there. So it was clear. Everything was filmed from the get-go. And she lost her job, and she is now just, I mean, there's somebody trying to put a bill through Congress named after her that would sanction someone who makes a false report that could harm someone. So, I mean, that happened on the same day. So those two things showed the whole mentality, and it exposed a really ugly part of American life. And I think people said, okay, this is it. We can now, maybe we've got enough traction that we can get somebody to listen. And it's not just Black people and colored people. It is people of all races that have lived for equality and really have fought to make our society a little better one. So the protests now are all the protests now are very peaceful. The rioting has stopped. The rioting, nobody did anybody a favor by rioting. The riots, but Martin Luther King said, riots are the language of people who are never heard.
Exactly.
And so them going in and destroying stores and stealing people's stuff, all that did was to some people, it gave some people said, okay, see, this is how they act. This is how they act. Well, no, it was just a boiling point, and it was how a few people acted. But now the protests are all scheduled. You can't see the picture. I've got family out in California. Matthew and Gigi. Matthew's white. Gigi is from Bolivia, but she's Black. They have 2 children.
Nice. They
live in San Francisco, and they're my family, and I love them. And so they have been participating in peaceful protests with their children. All the kids most of the kids I taught ever, they're all out. They're protesting. They're leading drives. So there's a lot of really positive energy going. We are all hopeful that it's going to because we'll see. The way that Trump and his administration handled the pandemic was horrible. They knew well in advance and didn't do nearly what they should have done.
Yeah, you woke up very late, Mark. You woke up extremely late.
Oh, well, it was because of Trump's administration, and then he fired the people that were supposed to be doing it. He's ridiculous. Yeah.
So I must say, I mean, out here in South Africa, I mean, there's a lot of people that are very much with Black Lives Matter. Yes, we do know that all lives matter, but because of the past, of course, there's a lot of people in terms of their love for what has happened in the past for Black people, and there's a lot of love shown in South Africa. I'm sure in all parts of the world.
Around the world, yeah, it's been interesting. Around the world, there have been these huge rallies about Black Lives Matter, and not only for America but for their own societies as well, which is really encouraging. So I'm hoping that it's gonna continue.
Mark, just I want to talk about you. I'm not quite sure what's happening in America at this stage, but I mean, we have different levels at the moment. We are at level 3 currently, and I mean, I'm in the hospitality industry, and we're probably going to go back towards the end of the year, maybe even next year. What have you been doing? I mean, I know that you're working currently, but what's happening with regards to Mark? I mean, are you ready?
Okay, so we were on spring break from school from the end of February for the first 2 weeks of March, and so while we were on break was when it really started getting bad, and so they made the decision that we would come back a week late because they didn't know what was going to happen, and then they realized we couldn't come back a week late, so we had to quickly shift and do a week of crisis planning of how we were going to finish our courses, because we had another quarter. We had from March, April, May to the end of the year. And because you had to get kids through with their matric or their graduation, you had to get their credits. And so we literally took a week to sort of start thinking and planning, and we took everything online. And we had already been working toward thinking about what would it look like to have a school where if a student was at a distance, they could learn if they were doing a semester abroad or if they wanted to do something else. And so we were already in that mindset from the last couple of years. So it wasn't completely out of the blue. We just didn't know we were going to have to do it that quickly. So what we did was we just all moved it. We literally quickly got our act together, moved our courses online, and started teaching. And so I was teaching a public speaking class, and I couldn't do my choir. I had a choir. I couldn't do my choir, and I couldn't do my acting class. And so I had my public speaking class. I handled it. I just found ways to do it and worked it, and it turned out great. We finished up at the end of May. By the 23rd, we finished up by the 23rd with classes and everything. The next week we did some meetings. Our school and a lot of the schools in the Episcopal. It's a church school. It's an Episcopal school in the Diocese of Virginia. All those schools, we all closed at the same time. We closed our dorms. Everybody went home because we had international students here, so we had to send them home. And so once we finished the school year, we began immediately. The plan was already in place to move to a new kind of learning platform, a hybrid model to toggle between, learn how to toggle between online or in-person classes. But no call has been made yet for the fall, other than we are planning. We will open one way or the other. We'll either open virtually or we'll open in person. I don't think we're going to know what that's going to be until mid-July, because I think it's just too early. We're still waiting to see how the counts are going to go. Is there going to be a second wave, which there most certainly will be, one way or the other, whether it's from Memorial Day and the protest or whatever. So I just started yesterday a new training course that I'm on this week, and it goes for this week and next week, and then I have a couple of weeks breaks, and then we come back and have another week of it, and then we do more. So there's literally training all summer there's a platform. I don't know if you'd be familiar with it, but it's called Canvas. It is a learning management system, and what it does is you develop your courses in modules and you put them in this format. The student accesses it, and once they access the week, it shows them what their modules are. It shows them what their skills and competencies are. If there's videos or links, they're all there. Everything is encapsulated in one platform that they can access as long as they've got an internet connection.
Right.
And then that way, you are more of a coach, and the teacher becomes more of a coach and a nurturer as the student sort of directs their own learning. You're there to provide those resources and all that kind of stuff. And so you record videos, you do things like you can use Zoom, you can use all kinds of platforms. You can do an embedded video of you over a screencast page, taking them through something. You can record a video and say, okay, this week I want you to consider this and this and this. And at the bottom, you're going to have some outcomes and say they can, but then there's more choice in online learning.
Yeah.
You can either demonstrate it this way. How do you know a competency? Like if you're training for hospitality, you say, what are I don't know if you remember the thing I did. What are the 3 steps to great service? Find out what the customer wants, get it for them accurately, enthusiastically and helpful, and then go the extra mile. If you're training somebody for that, how can they demonstrate that they actually know that? Are they gonna make a little video that says this is how I demonstrate it, or are they gonna compile a document? So you have to give students in distance learning, and I'm learning all this, and I knew some of it, but we're having to literally rewrite every course that we offer, and we're having to restructure it in a way that it is taught in a hybrid way, because if we have kids that return here, I can't have a class of 15, 18 people in close proximity. I mean, I'm in my classroom, so this is my choir, but I've got modules over here with where kids can sit close together.
Wow.
And if you got 5 kids sitting there breathing at one another, that's not the best thing at this thing. So if we're going to have kids here, are we going to have a few kids? Are we going to have to double teach the class and teach a part of them one time and a part another? So we don't know yet. And so we are told that hopefully there'll be an answer by mid-July. But we are planning to open late August 24th, one way or the other, either virtually or in person. On a personal level, I'm at an age where I mean, I need to keep working for several more years just because I need to keep working. Financially, I can't just stop working right now. So I'm fortunate that I have a job because thousands in the United States lost their jobs, hospitality, all that kind of stuff. So I have a job. I have a little apartment and that I have here on campus. I don't have to pay for. I have, they give us great health benefits, but we are taking a pretty significant pay cut.
Wow.
12%.
Wow.
So we all learned that last Monday.
Yeah,
a week ago.
It's such a lot of people here in South Africa, as an example, are they get laid off, which means obviously here they get laid off and they have the ability to come back to work when the property is open. Now,
right.
People are being retrenched left, right, and center, and they don't have any jobs. Now, the depression rate in homes at the moment is exponential. I mean, how's it in the States? I'm sure you must have a lot of.
I think a lot of people are dealing. I think a lot of people are dealing with that. It's interesting that you said that because literally throughout this entire thing, I've had former students, friends, and people reach out to me regularly. How are you? Are you okay? Because knowing who I am as a person, outgoing, doing my thing, being, Uncle Mark to everyone, they were worried that I would be suffering. And I've stayed really busy. I mean, during this time, it's not like I had the luxury of doing nothing. I mean, I was teaching and I was doing things and I was staying and I've stayed in touch with a lot of people. A lot more video work like this, a lot more Zooming, a lot more Facebook Hangouts, a lot more Duo, FaceTime, all that. I've done that more than I ever had. I had never done it before. So, but I've done a lot of writing, and I'm okay, Gallo. I guess I'm to the point where I can't really fight it. I just have to go through this and do the best I can and try to be as mentally acute as I can. I've been running and walking a lot, and I've cooked a lot. I've cooked a lot and given it away to my colleagues and friends, which they appreciate.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate that I have a job and that I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do, because we will have some type of school that in the next year. I'm hoping that by the time the next year rolls around, that there will be at least some form of a vaccine. There will be treatment, so that then once people are vaccinated, then you can have a lot more comfort in making sure that you can keep your people safe when you gather them. I
hear you. And of course, you act as mentor to many of your students. How have they been affected? You deal with them every single day, or
yeah, they were. There was a real struggle near the end of the quarter that we just did. There was a struggle for many of them to stay motivated because doing school at home was so new to them.
Right.
And it was all new. It just got thrown on them. It got dropped. And the biggest thing was their loss of connection with their friends and their teachers. Because in a small boarding school, when you've got 110 kids or 120 kids that live on campus, we are their family for 8 months of the year. We have, as I said, we have lunch with them 2 or 3 times a week. We see them in class. They come. They do all that kind of. And so they struggled with staying motivated. They struggled with finding a reason to do well. Okay. Now, the ones that were rising juniors or seniors, the seniors, of course, had motivation because they wanted to graduate.
Of course.
The 4th years. But some of the other kids, we had some kids that literally spent the first 5-6 weeks and they didn't hardly do anything. And these are largely decent students, but they were they were like, oh man, but once they realized that it wasn't changing and they weren't. And then when they realized they couldn't come back to school, they couldn't come and get their things. They couldn't, I mean, we wouldn't let anybody on campus. Rooms were full of all their stuff. So all their stuff was there. So we actually had staff members that for 10 weeks had to go in and pack up every child's belongings and either mail them to them or put them in storage.
Wow.
Every single thing. Go through all their stuff, unpack everything. So I think now that they're having their normal summer, now that they're in summer mode, some of them, it depends on where they are. Some of them have found some little jobs they can do. Some of them are, at least they're not faced with having to do schoolwork now in the midst of all this.
Right.
But they struggled. They struggled emotionally. They struggled from a point of, as I said, from motivation and from rationale. They just couldn't quite balance it out in their mind. Why can't I do this? And then as they begin to see more and more people die, I mean, that's a lot for teenagers to deal with.
And that's really what it is. I was chatting to somebody a couple of days ago about, we all hear this phrase about how abnormal is now the new normal. Do you ever think things will turn out to be normal again?
I think that we're all going to find a new normal. I was just reading something prior to talking with you, and it was saying, you can't just completely shut down everything forever because you can't sustain a society that way. Right. So hopefully, as I said, once there's a vaccine, like for me, as a choir director, as a musician, I can't have a choir this year. I can't do any performances this year. And that's a big deal for me. I mean, that's my emotional outlet. It's my training. It's what I love. But I have to realize that, I can't do something that might bring harm to someone. Mm-hmm. I think once there's a vaccine that's effective, and I think once there's a treatment,
right,
I think then we can resume something. But even then, like right now, if I want to go and see my great nieces and great nephews and niece, which I love, there's 8 of them and they adore me and I love them. But, as another family, it's 5 hours away. I have to go down there. I know that they've been interacting with other people. So I have to be aware. Am I going to risk myself for that? I mean, I could go and see them and watch them play, but they couldn't hug me and they couldn't be with Uncle Mark, and I couldn't be in the kitchen cooking with them like I always do. No. If I want to see my brothers, and I would like to see my brothers, I talk to them pretty regularly, but if I want to see them, I could drive down there and see them, and I could maintain distance and not stay in their home. No. But so for now, the new normal for me now is unless like a dear friend of mine wants me to come and see her in Michigan. And I'm thinking about it because she has been quarantined. She has multiple sclerosis. She has MS.
Yeah.
And so she's been pretty much quarantined. She hasn't gone because she's immunocompromised anyway. So she's been very, very careful, and she stays mostly at her lake house. Mm-hmm. She wants me to come there. And she's not sick. Nobody else is sick. And I said, well, I'm going to consider coming there. And our best friend, we are the 3 of us, lives in Kentucky. And I may pick her up. She actually, we think, has had the virus. Right. She didn't get tested, but she's pretty sure she had it. But she's better now. And she's getting an antibody test this week. So I'll know. So there's a chance I might do that, but I'm weighing that out if I want to. But it really depends. Like I was just looking right now, Michigan, where Debbie lives, their cases are rising again because those people all went crazy and all got out and started interacting with one another again 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now the cases are up. So I'm not comfortable. Because you got to think about it. If I drive, I've got to stop and get gas. I've got to go to a bathroom. There's now you have to think about all that stuff.
Right.
But Gallo, right. I do think that in time, in a couple of years, I think we'll all settle into a new normal and be more comfortable with, greeting people, hugging them, being in a room with more people and, having a business meeting, working in hospitality. Because, I mean, obviously hospitality has it taken a huge hit there?
Massive hits. Massive
Here
hits.
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
we literally just started domestic travel by plane. And the protocols in terms of COVID-19 readiness for hospitality at the moment, Mark, is almost near ridiculous, because
I know.
It's crazy.
Like sanitize, I mean, we know, you and I know what it's like to have to clean a room, just a regular clean.
Yeah.
Like if you're working and you're cleaning your hotel rooms and you want it clean because every guest expects to have a clean space. Clean linens, clean surfaces, everything everything clean.
Right.
Well, now it's got to be even more.
Just a very simple example is the interaction with the guest. You're wearing a mask, there's no smile, so you've got to look at somebody's eyes to see whether they're smiling or not. I'm making a silly example, but I mean.
No, but I mean, and even I've seen some really nice hotels where they literally dropped down a glass.
Yeah. And
put the little brass talkie thing like they have in a bank.
Oh,
and I mean, they did it nice. It looks nice, but there's a wall of glass between you and your guest.
You can't go into a lift with too many people. It's I don't know.
Now, are restaurants open there yet?
No. So open for takeaways, but not open for sit down.
Right.
Yeah.
We've just started here in Virginia. I think, well, not all of them. There's a few that are open they have outdoor spaces and they can guarantee those days, but indoor, most restaurants are at 50% capacity or less.
Sure. Well, if you think about a hotel as an example, I mean, your new 100% is probably going to be the new 70%. It's because you can't have those rooms. Imagine a guest.
Is Spear open?
They're open for takeaways, but they're not open for accommodation. In fact, I'm talking to you. I'm speaking to you on Thursday this week. The GM.
Okay. Who is that?
Yup Scoof. I don't think you know him, Mark.
Is Andrew Milne still there?
He is indeed. He's still the CEO of the company, yes.
He's the CEO now.
CEO. He was always the CEO. I mean, that time you were there, what was he?
He came in as Adi was the CEO when I was there, and then Andrew came in as, what did Andrew come in as? I was there when he was hired. He came in as what was he?
I really don't.
I don't know. He was something. he was a upper level, but Andrew's still there.
Yeah, no, he's 100% still there. Yeah, Mariotta's very much, as far as I know, very much on the operational side.
And I know Angus is the wild farmer.
Still Angus beef. Yeah.
I think Heidi Newton King is still there.
Heidi's absolutely there. She was COO at one stage, and I speak under correction, but I think she's currently the sustainability director at the moment.
That doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me. And so I don't know of anybody else who's there that was there when we were there.
Yeah.
I mean, Jill still works there, and I guess Fadil is still there. Fadil Sullivan.
And on the wine side, yeah. On the wine side.
But now you work with Melanie, right? Van Wyk?
Melanie Van Wyk, yes. So we Maze Consulting, Maze Academy. So I run both. We are just consult to hotels and also run the Maze Academy where I do learning and development for up and coming hoteliers who doesn't necessarily have the funds to do it. So we get some funding where we do hospitality training and ready them for the industry. That's my most fulfilling job. Love it.
Sure.
And
yeah. And then that's sort of what I did. That's sort of what I was brought here to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you remember a young man named Kaya Lupando?
Kaya Lupando.
Or Lupando. He was a guest relations officer. And he was just this wonderful young man, and he came to me. He lived in Kyamundi, and he came to me and said, "Uncle Mark, how can I be better at my job? How I don't know." And he didn't even know how to use Word or Excel. So I put him on a training course.
Okay.
And he did really well. And then I put him on another one, and he did so well. And I heard when I was there over 10 years ago, I heard that he had moved on and had gotten a good job in Cape Town. But I just don't know. I need to find. I would love to know what he's doing. I'd love to know, because he was sort of positioned for success. He had the right attitude. He had the right skills. He was great with people. And I just wondered whatever happened to him.
Well, if you connect with him,
but you don't know him.
With me too.
I will, because he was a bright, beautiful young man, and his name was Kaya. I think it's Kaya Lupando. And Lupando, Lupondo, I think, but Kaya, Khaya, I believe. Now, where does I know now some of those girls that used to work with Melanie, I don't know where they are. I mean, I stay in touch with Winnette Hagen.
Yeah, Winnette still works for the entire group.
For who?
For the group. So CNM Investments is our holding company.
Okay.
And she's the administrator for the entire group.
Oh, good. And then there was Allison
Dixon is on her own at the moment, so she's doing her own thing. She's really doing well for herself.
Yeah, I keep up with her. And then of course, she just went out of my head. Tall blonde has twins.
Tall blonde has twins. Gosh.
She worked in that same office with me and all those women.
Mark, come on.
No, she did. It was me. It was literally me and all these women in this one. And I had Maurice.
This person is. Are you talking about? I know you're talking about Emma, isn't it?
Emma, yes.
Yeah, Emma. Emma's doing well. I mean, I think she's a stay-at-home mom at the moment.
Yeah. Well, she's got 3 now. She got twins. She had twins first, and then she had another one. Yeah. But then, do you remember those 2 sisters, Maurice and started with G. Maurice and
Mark. You're talking about yonks ago. I mean, I can remember. I am getting a little bit older by the day.
They were sisters, and they worked in there, and it was so funny because they were pretty quiet to themselves. But I somehow, and then when they moved me into there to work for quite a while, my office was in there. I was literally me and all these women, and I just kept them all screaming, laughing all the time because I was so stupid. And so Maurice and what was her name? I cannot remember.
No idea.
But it was 2 sisters. They worked there.
I want to ask you. I know there's such a lot of conspiracy theories out there at the moment. I'm sure you know David Icke and on all these guys that's talking about the virus being man-made and people putting fear into people so that they can control them. What's your take on that, Mark?
You know, I just saw that somewhere. It was like somewhere in Sweden or somewhere said that they had proof that the virus was made in a laboratory.
Yeah.
You know, I've not done any reading on that. Like I said, I don't listen to the newscast because it's just too depressing, right. And it's after a while it's too much. Do I think someone's capable of that? Yes. I mean, chemical warfare and biological warfare has been around, circulating in people's thoughts for a long time. I mean, it was used in different ways. I mean, remember the sarin virus? I mean, there was somebody that tried to release some on the subway and different things. And this thing has spread so virulently, and it has affected so. I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about it?
Mark, I mean, I have my own sort of opinions. I don't necessarily believe that that it was man-made. I have mixed emotions about it, and it's definitely a topic that I will discuss in the future.
I mean, I wouldn't put anything past this is horrible, and
Yeah.
maybe it's totally wrong, but I wouldn't put anything past the Russians. I wouldn't put anything past the Russians.
Sure.
Because they are and have been forever trying their best to undermine anything they could. Because they still see themselves as wanting to be a world dominant power.
Sure. I hear you.
The Chinese, I interact with a lot of Chinese students. And so I'm jaded, because I know young people that I love, that I've taught, and I've met their parents, and they've been in my home, and they tell me about what people think and about what's going on in their country. But yet I know but there are some of the kids that have, their parents sent them halfway around the world to school.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that that's the most balanced opinion as far as, because, in this country and in your country, there's a lot of wonderful, amazing people that hate the idea of apartheid and hate the idea of marginalizing anyone and disenfranchising anyone. Right. But then there's a small group of people in your country that probably still wish that it was just like it used to be.
Absolutely. Same like in the States.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. I mean, there's people here that they are so on the edge, and they're so marginalized, and they're so wrapped up in what their dogma has been, that was handed to them by people decades ago, that they never knew, but yet it's who they are. Yeah. They don't even know who they are, Gallo. I mean, and that's the part that makes me sad. Being a man of fortunate experience, but also being a man of faith.
Sure.
I have to believe. I have to keep myself in check and realize that I either believe what I believe, and I truly believe it, or I don't believe it all. I mean, I there's no middle ground for me as an individual. I can't have faith in the fact that things will get better, but not really believe what I see around me. Because there is that strange balance. There's that strange yin and yang thing that we live in. And I think of and I was reading it the other day. I think of the words from the book in the Bible of Ecclesiastes, and it says, to everything there's a season. There's a time to reap and a time to sow. There's a time to live and a weep and a time to laugh. There's time to put away things and time to take them up. And I think we are in a time of strange change. And I think that we have to realize that this is not the first time that something horrible has happened to a society. I mean, look what happened in the 1500s, the bubonic plague. Look at the plague when it went through Europe. It wiped out most of Europe. Yeah. It literally wiped out most of Europe. And it was they were like, what's this going on? Everybody's dying, and then they couldn't figure out, well, how's it being spread? Is it or is it you? Is you? Same thing with if you look at leprosy, or if you look at cholera, or if you look at smallpox, people got it, and they were like, wait, how did I get this? And then just one contact, and all of a sudden them and their family. So I have to believe that this is a time that will pass, and that I would like to think that from this, both from the pandemic and from the social unrest, that we can emerge as a little bit more thoughtful people. I mean, I would like to think we can be more thoughtful, more understanding, more accepting and kind of things we don't understand. And that's where, to me, Gallo, that's the biggest key to racism. Racism is about ignorance.
Right.
Racism is about not. See, I've said this about some of my family members. If you don't understand it, it must be bad. If you can't explain it. If you can't explain it, it must be not worth talking about. And if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Well, people are now talking about stuff, and people have to realize, well, it does exist.
If you look at the amount of people that are putting up positive messages on their WhatsApp statuses, it has just grown exponentially. I don't know how it is with you, but people are putting up positive messages every single day. So anyway, so in saying that, a lot of people are thinking very positively and encouraging others through these social media tools that we have.
Absolutely. Same thing. I see it on Facebook. I see it on I mean, well, for instance, like for me, when George Floyd was killed and literally the shit hit the fan when it went crazy.
Yeah.
I immediately thought of my dear students who I love, who are people of color.
Sure.
So I took my trusty Samsung and I composed a message and I sent it. I sent a message to every one of them and said, I just want you to know that you have been a part of my life for however many years. And I would say the years. And I'd say, I want you to know that I love you and that my home is a sanctuary for you. My mind and my heart are open to you. Never, ever question whether or not you should call me.
Yeah.
But you don't have to call me. I just want you to know that I'm here. And every single one of them within moments wrote back and said, never underestimate the impact of what you've had on my life and the things that you say and the way that you live your life, because it matters. And so yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people have been trying to be more proactively encouraging. I think they've been more willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is something everybody could work on.
Yeah, just being. I suppose we are people through other people, which is really what it is. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. So let's say you had the power to make the world a better place. What would you do and why would you do it?
First thing, I would mandate that world leaders, people that actually create policy and make decisions that impact countries, be confined for a certain amount of time in a house and be made to cook and prepare their own meals and sit down at a table and eat the meal that they had prepared. Because there's something to be said for breaking bread with people, even if you don't know them. And I think that's one thing I would mandate. You have to come to the table literally, and you have to. If you want to eat, you've got to help prepare it.
I hear you.
And I want you to sit down. And this is part of my hospitality training, I guess. But I want you to sit down, and I want you to share a meal with these people and talk as humans, not as leaders, just talk as humans and find out what the other is about. I would also mandate that every child and every adult spend a portion of their time singing or writing or dancing. Because entering into some form of personal expression, even if you're not good at it, frees the mind and frees the body to a point that you forget to care about what somebody thinks. Because when you actually step out onto the dance floor, even if you're at a wedding and you're not really a good dancer, if you just get out there and move with everybody else, for just a little minute, you give up that personal craziness that says, I can't. And I think every child deserves to be applauded for something. And I think, and I did that in my teaching. I think every child needs to hear applause for something they've done. And I don't care if it's singing a single song with 60 other kids on the stage. If you sing that song and everybody applauds, that child goes, wow, they liked what I did. Because so many children never get that.
They need motivation. It motivates them to carry
on. And
I
think, and if I could impact the world, I would probably make it possible for people to realize at least one of their dreams. Wow. If I had magic powers, just one. If you can choose a dream, what would you like to realize? Do you want to travel to the moon? Do you want to climb Mount Everest? Do you want to find a cure for cancer? People need to dream more, because without hope, I think people suffer. And if there's no hope, and I think that's what we've seen in, at least in our country, so many people have grown up, so many Black people have grown up with no hope.
Yeah.
They fought for everything they had, and they fought because they had hope. But then they get to a certain level, and after a while, it's just, I've seen it somewhere. It was in a movie. It says, aren't you tired? Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of being ugly? Aren't you tired of not being fair? Aren't you tired of fighting all the time? And I think a lot of our citizenry is tired. I think yours too. I think they're tired, and all they want is something to hope for. So if I could inspire hope in people in the world, I would think that I would have accomplished more than I deserve the right so to do. Because inspiring hope, whether it's in the form of music, or whether it's in the form of governing fairly, or whether it's in the form of providing equality and justice to every single person that walks down the street, I think inspiring hope, maybe that would be my sole goal, is to inspire hope. And I like to think that we do that, whether we give someone a beautifully baked and decorated cake, or whether we listen to them, or whether we provide some perspective for them. A young man called me several weeks ago, and he was in my class 20 years ago. It took my class, a music class, and he has this affinity and love for me. And when he first reached out to me, I was like, yeah, I kind of remember you. I had hundreds of kids in my class. But then I was traveling and up to Massachusetts. And he goes, please come, and I want you to meet my family. I want you to meet my children. I want them to meet the man that made a difference in my life. And I was like, how do you say no to that? So I went. And he's just this sweet guy. And he just sat one night and he just talked to me. That night I stayed with him, and he just cried. And he goes, I don't think you realize what a difference you made in my life. And I said, well, actually, no, Matthew, I don't. And so he's kept in touch with me, and he'll always want me to talk to his kids. And but he called me not 3 weeks ago and said, I just wanted you to know I'm on my way to rehab. He goes, I've got a serious problem with alcohol, but you're somebody that matters, and I wanted you to know that you inspire me, and that I want to be better because I want to see you. And it made me really pause and think. And so I've talked to him since then, and talked to his kids again. And he's just, so we never know. You never know when you teach a young person how to give good service, how much that's going to come back to them in repayment of gratitude. You never know, by teaching them how to give a guest a good experience, that it's going to impact their life. So I think inspiring hope is something that we all should do, whether we teach or we train or we cook or we legislate. I think we have to inspire hope.
That was an amazing answer, very inspiring. As you normally do inspire, your students must be extremely lucky to have somebody like that with them, I must say. I normally ask people how one can support you to support others. Because, as we know, when people support us, we normally support somebody else. How can anybody support you, Mark, to support others?
Well, I'm one of those people too. I love to have hope. I love to have hope and be encouraged. And I think often people look at people that are like you or me that are we're very easy to talk with. We spend our time coaching others in how to be our best selves. We take lead. We're leaders, and they see us and positive emotion, and they often overlook the fact that we are just guys, and that we too need a little recharging, and we need a little bit of encouragement. I mean, I still think I have work to do, and I'm not sure how to go about it sometimes, and I usually figure my own stuff out. But I mean, I think there's one of the best experiences of my life was actually being in South Africa for those 2 years and making a difference in the lives of the young people that I work with and teaching them why good service was important and creating programs that were energetic and have, I don't know if you remember all of them, but I did the passport program, and then we did
I remember that like it was yesterday.
And we do the Helping Hands program where we had Star Service. We had this Star Service program where we had all those secret shoppers come in, and if they got their service, they put down the Star card, and then we could go back and they had the answer, and then we could go with each person and say, "This is what they said about you. Right. Look at what you did," or "You didn't do this, but you did do this." And I kind of miss that aspect of my life. I kind of wish that I had the opportunity to continue to do that kind of things. And of course, right now is probably not the best time in the world to do it, since hospitality is struggling to even, find its way back to a modicum of support. But, I think I love the idea that I would like to think that people would every now and then take the time to, and they have, and don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm not suffering, but I think I would enjoy, for some people, a more regular contact that says, "Hey, I was thinking about you. You matter," or "I was thinking about you. How anything I can do for you?" Because I spent so much of my life doing for everybody around me, but that's part of who I am. It's part of what makes me tick. And so, but yeah, I would think. I think encouragement or camaraderie is key also in any business, but I think it works really well in education and in hospitality and in business, where people are all going in so many directions, but they're all generally trying to do the same job or trying toward the same goal. I think they just need to be aware that sometimes everybody needs a lift. Everybody needs an encouragement.
I think a pat on the back sometimes means more than money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're valued. I suppose.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Mark, anything else that you want to tell our viewers or listeners?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I've been really enjoying just sharing time with you, and
I had such a pleasant experience after talking to you for more than 10 years. I mean, this in itself is history. So I really had a good time chatting to you, and I definitely don't want it to be the last time that we chatting.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it again.
I do have some other topics that I'd like to address, which I
Perfect. Let me know.
And I will most certainly phone you or send
absolutely
you a message
Absolutely.
sometime.
Perfect.
Okay.
You take care of yourself and give my best to Melanie. I always enjoyed working with her.
Yep. I will indeed.
All right. You take care of yourself.
Thank you very much. I will get your details so that people can make contact with you as well.
We'll do it.
Yep.
Take care, man.
Okay, Mark.
Bye.